What's up, everybody? It's your favorite idiots, Kyler, Tyler, and Preston. And we're back for the 6th and final episode of the Screaming Idiots Show. Season 1.
Got him!
I hope I got some of you. We had to create a little bit of dramatic flair, right? So I'm sure you're all wondering what the hell that means, right? So we've got, as we've mentioned in some earlier shows, some big things coming down the pipe. And we had to figure out how we were going to orchestrate that. And we bounced ideas off each other for a while, and we finally came to the conclusion of how we're going to do this. And basically, we're going to be grinding our asses into the dirt for the next few weeks to record what we're calling Season 2. And we're going to do this during a short break, if you will, in releasing episodes. So this episode here will be the final episode of what we're calling Season 1. And we're going to take a couple weeks and really grind out Season 2. And I promise you guys it's going to be worth the wait. We've already lined up several guests for Season 2.
I'm excited for all
Oh,
this.
man. You know, we've got some different bands that have some members that are going to come on and chat with us, working on some different figures in the music industry as well to give their insight on working within the local side of music and maybe some folks that have worked on some bigger stuff. So stay tuned for that. But, we are going to be working our asses off, basically, right, boys?
Yeah.
It's going to be a grind. But
It's all for the right reasons.
it is for nothing but pure love for what we're doing. I can assure you that.
Yep.
So how we're going to do this is while we, take this break and we get these episodes for Season 2 recorded, we're also going to be finalizing our new logo and branding, which we have mentioned. I believe we mentioned that in episode
Last
3.
Two episodes?
Episode 3, I think. Episode 2 or
Maybe.
3. So we're going to be finalizing that. We've seen
There's enough that I'm losing track.
Yeah.
We have seen a sneak peek of the logo, and you guys are going to love it. I can assure you you're going to love it. It'll really, if you know us, you'll see it and go, yep, that's those guys. It'll match the name of the show perfectly, so stay tuned for that. And with that comes, the website that we'd mentioned, working on, so you guys have access to everything the Screaming Idiots show, including blogs that we might be working on, as well as merch. So that's coming down the pipe too. And we're really excited about that. So we're going to be working our butts off here in the next few weeks for you guys and for us. And it's going to take a lot of hours outside of, our jobs and our families, but it is all going to be worth it. And I know that you guys feel the exact same.
Yeah, so I mean, kind of goes back to something I was talking about on episode 2 or 3, where I was trying to understand. I really didn't expect that first episode Kyler and I did to really go anywhere. I know there's a lot of people,
Yeah.
a lot of people out there like, sweet, let's record a podcast just out of the blue. And they'll record a few episodes and it just doesn't do anything. And after that first episode, with the response we got, I had asked myself, I was like, what's got y'all listening to this?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it is, we understand that a lot of you guys out there don't have the opportunity to have these kind of conversations, but there's so many of you that actually relate to the conversations we're having. And not only that, but, some people have commented on kind of the rawness and the genuine feelings that we talk about in relation to the music that we listen to. And so there's a lot of people out there that really don't get the opportunity to express how they feel about the music that they listen to and why they listen to the music they listen to. Like we talked about with Derek. He explained his life story to be able to explain why he listens to what he listens to. And so we understand there's a lot of you out there that are listening for that reason. And we've also noticed kind of a jump in other artists listening.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, with Preston and I talking about our experience with being in a local band, I kind of mentioned this too. We're relating to the 90% out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That's exactly what you said.
And I cannot stress enough how many times I have been asked questions from smaller bands that are playing like their first couple of shows or something like that, and they've seen that we've been doing this for a long time, and you know, these guys will ask me questions that to me seem kind of silly. Hey man, how do I get shirts made?
Mm-hmm.
The fuck you mean how you get shirts made? Like,
That's the
what do you-
dickhead personality.
and that's the dickhead personality in me, but like, I've been around this all my life, and so I forget what it's like for some people who haven't been around this and they don't really know where to get the information from. You know, you type in how to get shirts made in Google, and all you're going to get is 50,000 pages
Yeah.
of shirt printers out there marketing their website.
Yep.
And marketing their company to get you to order your shirts through them. But it doesn't really explain, like, you know, how you go about picking who you're going to go with.
Yeah, and a lot of those websites are, not to get on a tangent, but like Custom Ink, you're going to pay fucking $30 to $40 for a product.
Yeah.
It's
Crazy.
way
Yeah, and so
overpriced.
it's being able to understand, like, there's a lot of artists out there, a lot of small bands just getting started that have a great product. They have great music. They just don't know how to operate the business side of things. And that's why I went to school for it. I just had to understand more of the business behind music, because there's so much. There's so many moving parts. When you listen to a band that's on the radio, or, you know, maybe artists like Polaris and stuff that aren't on the radio, but, you know, they are gaining popularity in their niche. And it's like, how are they doing that?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't understand what goes into getting to that level. And so I think having more conversations around, you know, things like we talked about with Derek, with, you know, the music business, kind of some of the legal things to look out for. And I'm excited to have some people on that can really help explain in a not so dickish way that I would,
Mm-hmm.
how to go about some of these things. And we have a couple guys lined up that have been doing this for a while,
And
Way
gals.
longer than us.
Guys
they've-
and gals, I should say.
they've
Yeah.
worn multiple hats, and so they can help explain some of this stuff. And, you know, with my background, I can maybe explain some of the detailed business side of what they're talking about. And so then we also just look at why we enjoy doing this. You know what I mean? And
As a pod or as a band?
as a pod.
Yeah.
And so after the first few episodes, I started getting really, really excited about getting in here, recording these episodes, and making each episode better than the next.
Oh my God,
Mhm.
yes.
And if you guys remember episode 4 ending with Derek, holy shit.
Yeah. Yeah.
He summed it up perfectly with
Mhm.
those two words.
Yeah, and that episode was incredible.
To us at least. To
us.
us. At least.
No, and it's not just us,
Yeah.
because the feedback that at least I've
It
gotten
was
has been
Yeah, it was
that, and we said it, you know, like, this is going to be our best episode, And
Yep.
people are like, yo,
Derek brought the juice, man.
that shit. I'm telling you what, and we told him this too. He set the bar really fucking high for every future
Yep.
guest. So everybody that's listening that's coming on the show in the next few weeks, be on your game because Derek set the bar high. We can't wait to run it back and get
We
him back
can't
on
make
here.
him nervous though. Yeah, well, he was nervous. He was nervous, and look
Yep.
what he did. No, I think the coolest part about this, we've talked about it ad nauseum by now, but we created this whole thing out of our love for talking about music.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we had an idea where it was going to go or our own ideas this whole time, but each week as we've done that, I mean, we talk every day now, so it's like there's a new idea every single day for what we can do in the future, and I'm excited for you all to be a part of this with us, and we hope it does what we want it to do.
Yeah, and I mean, we were sitting here talking before we hit the record button and saying, how awesome is it to, be able to put this content out, just talking about what we love and what we've come to find out, which we already knew, but just the affirmation that so many other people love too. And I promise you guys, and I don't mean to sound arrogant when I say this, but there's no one out there, at least that we know of, that is doing what we're doing, that is providing a platform in which musicians can come on and express their emotions and their journeys and their stories and their why for what they're doing. And just music fans can come on or listen and relate to and feel like they're a part of this with us. We're doing this just as much for you guys as we are for us because one, we enjoy the shit out of this.
Yep.
It is so much fun to do. But hearing back from everybody that listens is what makes it all worth it. What makes the late nights of recording and leaving our families to come do this and putting in the time after work to, me, I've been reading a book that Tyler gave me, about doing things like this and doing them successfully. And, it makes it all worth it. So again,
That is a good book.
it is a good book.
Shout out the
You
book.
want to plug that book real quick?
Yeah, so I'll plug the book. So if you have looked into social media marketing in any capacity over the last 10 to maybe 12 years, maybe even longer, you've probably heard the name Gary Vee. And Gary Vee has put out several books. And when I first stumbled upon him, it was through school. So even in the marketing classes I was in, we were looking at what Gary Vee was doing and what he was teaching. And so I ended up picking up this book that I didn't read until after I'd been out of school for about a year or so. And I read this book, and it was inspiring, but also somewhat educational on mind peace. So your mindset being so important in anything that you do, whether it's a normal job or professional sports player or a musician or whatever it is. Mindset's a big piece of it, and believing that what you're doing can be successful on some level. It might not be this multi-million-dollar idea that you're doing, but even if it brings you as much money as you're already making, isn't that what success is?
Yeah.
Yep.
It is.
Doing what you love for a living. And so he talks a lot about, the mindset piece and then kind of how to get there.
No, it's a great book. I've enjoyed it.
It's called Crush It. And he ended up putting out a follow-up to that book as technology started to advance a little bit and certain trends started to change. And I'll be passing that on to you next.
Yeah, I know. That's my next reading material homework. So another thing that, we wanted to touch on, just so, we want to keep you guys in the loop on everything we're doing. So we've talked about the break. We've talked about season 2. We talked about logo, website, merch, all of that. the next piece that we want to cover is Patreon. And what we have decided to do with Patreon is use it for your guys' advantage. And what we mean by that is, since we are going to be recording all of season 2 within the coming 3 to 4 weeks, we've already started a Patreon page. Let me just say this, it's not live, but we have started and constructed a Patreon page. When all of season 2 is completed, a week before we start releasing episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, Stitcher, Amazon, all of that, we're going to drop the entire season on Patreon at once. We set the subscription price low at $5 a month because we're not in this for money.
Nope.
So we set it low. I mean, I've subscribed to some stuff that's $25 a month. So I feel like we're keeping the price really low to make it easy and accessible for everybody. So any of our subscribers that subscribe to the Backstage Pass, we're calling it, will get instant access to all episodes of season 2 all at once. You won't have to wait for a weekly release. You'll be able to binge it all.
Yep.
And it's just like with a Netflix series, right?
Yeah.
You find a Netflix show you like and you want to binge it. Well, if you subscribe to our Backstage Pass, you'll be able to not only binge or at least have access to all of season 2, but you'll also get access to any and all bonus content that we are going to start working on, whether that's a quick breakdown of a new album or a new song, or just a fan request. You know, we've added a feature in our Patreon where you guys can interact with us and send in requests and things like that. So our subscribers are going to get all of the backstage, behind the scenes access you can ask for $5 a month. So if you want to do that, you can go and get on the wait list. You can just look up the Screaming Idiots show on Patreon and enter in your email, and you'll be notified when the page goes live. There's also a link to that wait list on our Twitter page at TSIS Podcast. So you feel free to hop on the wait list. And if not, you just want to hear the episodes as they release weekly, that's perfectly fine too. As long as y'all are listening, that's all we care about. But we wanted to give, our most loyal listeners, the folks that have been with us from day one, a little benefit there of being able to hear it all at once. So, and also interact with us one-on-one. You guys have anything else you want to add to that?
Yeah, so, the idea was essentially anytime Netflix drops a series and I start that series, I have to binge the entire season that they dropped. And it's something about me where I have a hard time starting something and not finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because it'll drive me absolutely fucking insane. So I end up, poor time management. I will go through and I will
just
binge.
like that show weeks ago.
I will go through and I will binge the entire season. And so we understand that there's people just like that out there that may want to, go through and just binge a whole season. And so when we decided we were going to split this up in seasons to try to make it a little easier on us so that we can just kind of grind out a few weeks and have content for, almost 2 months.
2 months, pretty much, yeah.
So
Well, it allows for stuff that may get in the way and stuff like that. Because
we're not doing this for a living.
The one thing we want this to be is consistent.
Yeah.
I think it's all what we strive for, regardless of what it is, but especially this is.
Especially for you guys that are listening. We want to make sure that we are doing what we say we're going to do, right? So
we don't want there to be any cliffhangers or anything. We
under
want
promise,
it to be
over deliver.
Structured, yeah.
So Tyler, go ahead, buddy. Did you cover everything you wanted to cover?
I feel like I had something else to say, but I don't remember.
We cut him off just like we're
you
used
cut him
to
off.
do.
You
Well,
cut him off.
Hey,
I cut you.
You're guilty of it too.
You're fine.
you
So
off.
I guess the final thing I'll land on is that the expectation is that several people maybe sign up for 1 month and subscribe for the 1 month so that they can binge the season. and then cancel their subscription. So, if that's what you want to do, feel free. I encourage it. That's kind of the expectation. But what we will be trying to do is do more of the business side content to be able to post on Patreon, so that for those who really want to learn,
Yeah.
you'll have that content on there so that you can go through and try to figure some of this shit out, and we can help you through the process. And if you have questions, feel free to reach out to any of us individually or on TikTok.
You can reach.
I don't
to us
know the
on Patreon.
handles or
It's
Patreon.
all TSIS podcast.
And you can request content. And the interesting thing is we have the setup now where we can easily come in here and cover quick topics for 20 to 30 minutes and be able to post those episodes on the Patreon account a lot easier than we can through the Apple Podcast and Spotify and all that stuff. And from there, it's a way for you guys to help support us, because I got people interested in coming and being on the podcast, but they live far away. So we're trying to offer them some compensation to be able to come out, show a little hospitality when they're here. And so it's going to cost a little money to get some of these people on. And if you want to be part of that, feel free.
We appreciate you ahead of time. And just to show you further how much more dedicated we are, I mean, we just as a group, and mostly you, Tyler, just put a lot of money into making this show better with these. If you're watching us on YouTube, these new mics, the mic stands, the cords. I mean, a couple G's on all this stuff, and
it hurt to put the credit card.
But when that box came from Sweetwater, you were on the phone telling us like, "Boys,
he was
shit's
giddy.
here."
He was giddy.
I mean, we are dedicated to making this as good as we possibly can, and spending money is part of that. So we have no problem spending a little money to make everything a better experience for you guys. So I think that's all that we needed to cover on the open segment. Again, just a reminder, this will be the last episode of season 1. Taking a short break, and we're coming back with a fucking vengeance.
Oh, absolutely.
So you guys are going to hear music at the beginning and the end of the episodes. It's going. I mean, it'll be a whole new show.
It'll be a production.
Yeah, like we said, we're not just building a podcast. We're building a brand. We're starting a movement. So, well, there's that, boys. Sweet, we got that covered.
It's rock and roll,
man. Well, let's talk about Screaming Evidence for a second, and some of the shows coming up this summer, and in particular one that I think everybody, at least in Ohio, Southern Ohio, gets excited about, in the Barnyard Bash.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that there's already been most of the lineup announced, and pretty solid lineup this year.
Very solid lineup.
Anybody different than last year?
I haven't seen it.
Very consistent, and that's where I can't say who is on the lineup as of now. So It hasn't been completely released. But I think anybody in the surrounding area will want to come to this show. There's going to be a big headliner that has toured with bands like
August Burns Red, Era,
like Mazda Flames.
There's a big list.
Yeah, so this
Love me
show,
some like Mazda Flames, baby.
this show will be the best show of the year for us, most likely, and it always is.
Yeah,
and I'm excited to contribute toward this show and make it even better.
So I don't know the date of it. I know it's
August 30th.
August 30th, and it'll be here at the Fayette County Fairgrounds in Washington Courthouse, Ohio. So August 30th. You got a time on that?
I think they normally start music around 5.
Gotcha.
Yeah, typically around 5, but maybe doors open around 3. I guess barn doors open.
Barn doors open at 3. Yeah. It's a good show. I mean, it's
it's a blast, man.
A lot of people show up to that. It'll be, I hope to, as a podcast, be there and maybe do some side recordings and interview some bands before the music if we can. I think that'd be super cool. So we've already had some conversations with the promoter for this show about that
Yep.
because he is a listener of the pod. So thank you for that. I don't know if we should name drop him, but anyways,
What's up?
you know who you are if
He's
you're
out
listening.
there.
You know who you are if you're listening. So I'm excited about it. Is there any other ones you guys got coming up this summer? I know there was the one
Couple
on.
potential shows that were just offered to us. Tyler, I'll let you.
Yeah, so
Plug
we
those.
were offered our pick of a couple different shows. We haven't agreed on which shows we're
yeah,
going
we
to
need to
play.
figure that out.
And then I would like to get us a few more shows booked for the summer. But the problem is right now, our main priority is new songs.
Yeah.
And so part of, that we talked a little bit about an order that was made. So we got a lot of equipment to be able to start recording more and being able to do more for ourselves here in our space, because we are fortunate to be able to have the space that we do to play in.
Just like Derek said a couple weeks ago. What'd he say? Know your rights. My mind blanked out for a second.
Just like Derek said a couple weeks ago.
Know your
Holy
rights.
shit.
Know your rights and own your shit, and that's another step that we're taking forward as a band as well.
Yeah, so we're trying to own our own shit, be able to put our own shit together, but most importantly, it's going to allow us to put content out faster, because we've been releasing stuff like every few, 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
It's not a great way to
You're on that
really build
Boston schedule.
momentum.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not a great way to be able to build momentum, and that's really what you need to kind of break through the noise out there, is to build momentum. And it's release content, build it up, get to where it's starting to plateau and starting to fall off, and have something ready to go to keep that momentum going up. And we just haven't been able to go at a speed that would allow us to do that. COVID really killed a lot of that for us. But yeah, I mean, it's the big focus is the new music and being able to set ourselves up to be able to release content faster, build momentum, and really catapult ourselves forward.
Yeah. I don't know that I have too much to add there, but I think you made a good point. We don't want to overextend ourselves when it comes to playing out, which we obviously love doing, but there's a focus and a need right now to have our new material taken care of and make each and every show we play even better than the one before. So really, it's just a matter of getting all this new material out there, getting used to recording here at our spot, and I'm excited for all of it.
Yeah, and I guess if I were to give any advice to any of those musicians out there that have been hopping on to get some piece of advice from us on how to approach your business as a musician, don't get too caught up in trying to play shows. We talked about it a little bit on one of our earlier episodes, where bands will throw a few songs together real quick and they'll go out and start playing shows. But if you're not worth your customers' time, if you're not worth your fans' time, they're not going to support you. And so focus on the craft, focus on your product before you release it. Otherwise, it's going to fall on its face. And so we had a band that we played with a few times, and Preston, you and I were big fans of them, Fate of Orion.
Yeah.
They didn't start playing shows until they had been playing together and writing songs and practicing the shit out of those songs for at least a year.
Yeah. Yep.
And as soon as they went out and started playing shows, they captivated their fucking audience.
Yeah, I mean, we
They
had
grabbed our
fans
attention.
Fans of ours fans of other bands that are at those shows that were asking, who the hell are these guys?
I'll
And-
still listen to their
Yeah.
album.
Yep.
It wasn't the greatest production, but the songs were fucking
They're
fantastic.
Damn good songs. Damn good songs. Yep.
The one time I saw them live, unfortunately, the sound was shit.
There was
so-
a sound issue.
Yeah.
on that night.
But you could tell.
He was in a big metal room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was in a barn.
Full disclosure, it was in a barn. So, but you could tell their talent was evident. Their guitarist, especially, is
Whew.
he's
His
Three
ability-
piece. 3-piece.
The
Yeah,
things
three-
that
yeah,
he's
they are
playing on the
three-piece.
guitar, but also singing at the same time,
It's kinda
gave
scary.
me made me dizzy.
Yeah.
I was like, what the fuck's
what
happening?
the fuck?
How are you doing that, bro? You have like 2 brains.
No, and I feel that way about Waste of White.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, those dudes
They
jam.
fucking jam.
Absolutely
So
jam.
my guy Daniel,
Yeah. Hopefully Daniel and Andrew are listening.
I hope, yeah. So Waste of White is another local band that these guys, Preston and Tyler, have played with a couple times, and I am a fucking huge fan
Yep.
because they jam.
They
They
got
are,
that. They got that piece of thrash metal that just.
It gets me.
It gets Kyler.
It gets
But they-
me, man. If,
But they
if
also
you,
sound like Creed almost.
but because Daniel's
Here we
voice
go.
has. Here we go.
Shout
Daniel's-
out Waste of
here
White.
we go.
Let's go, Waste of White. Okay, Daniel's voice has that raspy, pissed off.
He does,
"Can
yeah.
I,
Yep.
fucking
It's a little bit of Matt Heffy
It just-
too. I
it-
feel.
it just, I'm telling you, man, like they are that one quote unquote local band that I just put in that rotation
Yeah.
with the bands that I listen to every day.
Yep.
You know, the Eras, the Polaris, the Moths, all that. I've got Waste of White in there
Mhm.
because they fucking jam.
They
And
do.
some of the shit that Daniel plays while he's singing, and he's singing that good and scream. I'm like, now, well, not Andrew.
Andrew's the drummer.
Andrew's the drummer. Yeah,
Yep.
their bassist does a lot of the screaming too. I
Yeah,
can't
he
think of
does,
his
and
name.
he's
I'm sorry,
nasty.
brother.
He's got a
fucking
nasty scream to him. Yep.
So I just got me off on a tangent. But shout out,
And those boys are young. They have
Yeah, they
a
are
shit
young.
ton of potential.
they do.
Oh,
They're
absolutely.
young.
Daniel, big time hunter like myself too.
Yep.
So he's always out there putting.
They're
them-
out there from the
big uns.
sticks too, though.
Yeah, man,
Yeah.
putting them big ones on the ground. So shout out Waste of White. You guys keep fucking killing it. And if you're listening to the pod, go check out Waste of White.
Yes.
You will not be
Do it
disappointed.
now.
Fate of Orion too. I mean, that's another
Do
one
it.
to go check out. So, and
Do
also while we're on this topic, I mentioned it to the guys before the show, but I've had several people reach out to me, excuse me, that have listened to the pod and then told me, "Hey, I went and checked out Screaming Evidence while I was listening to the pod, and I love their shit."
Cool.
Thank you so much for going out and checking these guys out too, because that's a I guess an inadvertent advantage of doing this pod is giving the
Right.
band exposure. So, but to see it actually working is fucking awesome. So, thank you everybody that's gone out and checked out Screaming Evidence music. So,
Yes, thank
Definitely
you.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, I think that
More
you
to
got
come.
and good shit to
I
come
promise.
too.
A lot better than what you
really
heard.
good shit to come. So, I think you guys, Tyler, you were talking about how, yeah, we could go play a bunch of live shows, but man, we really need to get this new music figured out. You guys have done a much better job of getting your priorities straight,
Mhm.
and I think you touched on that with what you said. Like, hey, if you're a local band and you're listening to this, don't focus so much on playing live shows. I think inadvertently what you're saying is have your priorities straight. And getting your sound right and writing good music is more important than going out and just
So
banging some
much
shit
more- so much
you
more
threw
important.
together in a parking lot at a live show playing
Mhm.
5 or 6 songs, 2 of them being covers. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with playing covers. I'm just saying, get your priorities straight, write good music, hone your craft, find your unique sound,
Mhm.
and perfect it before you start going out on the road, right? I mean, I think that's kind of what
I
you're
wouldn't
driving
say
at.
perfected.
Yeah, because it's going to
because
evolve regardless.
You
You
get what I'm
will-
saying.
Yeah.
You will drive yourself mad trying to be quote unquote perfect. Don't
Oh,
be
for sure.
perfect. Be good enough to captivate your audience and get people interested in coming to the next show.
I think that's extremely important because the people that come to your show are your customers.
Well, and that's what
So-
we've noticed, or at least I've noticed. I'm sure you noticed way before me, But with Screaming Evidence, because we live in Podunk, Washington Courthouse, you know, we'll travel to Columbus to play a show, or we'll travel south or travel west to the Dayton area to play a show. And what we have to do, because we're smack dab, I would say in the middle of all this, but still a decent amount ways
We're
away.
at least an hour away from any major city.
Yeah, yeah. So we have to go into every show that we play, especially bigger ones that we know are, you know, a bigger deal. Like, we have to get at least 2-3 fans here in order to build a fan base that will travel with us as we bounce around.
Yeah. And I think you guys have done a really good job of doing that.
And it's all about building relationships. They might like your music, but you need to speak with those people at those shows and get an idea about them.
Being in a band or being the host of a podcast,
Mm-hmm.
the hosts, plural, of a podcast is no different than being in sales, right? You are selling yourself.
Yeah.
You're not selling your music. I mean, you are, but in a way, you are selling yourself as the product.
Mm-hmm.
And your relationships that you build along the way are what are going to carry you to success. Whatever level of success you wish to have as a band, as a podcast, as a whatever the hell, an underwater basket weaver. I don't care what it is.
Beautiful.
Shout out Mr. McNamara, Phys Science freshman year. So those relationships that you build are what are going to determine your level of success, right?
Yeah,
And I think
it's
you guys,
extremely
we've talked about it
important.
before. You guys do a fantastic job of fan engagement and getting them to not just support you, but support other bands that might
Mhm.
be on the bill, the show bill, or go check out so-and-so's music. You know, you guys are getting your fans involved in the experience of the music that
Mhm.
you're involved with, right?
Yep.
Whether it's what you guys are playing or your counterparts that you're playing with.
Mhm.
So, and I think that's why Screaming Evidence fans, for example, do such a great job of supporting, you know, local bands.
Mhm.
And it's because of the relationships you've built with those fans. So,
Tyler, what do you have to add to that?
I've got nothing.
full disclosure, this episode has no script other than which not like any of them ever have a script, but we always bounce ideas off of each other. But
We
this
have a
one,
guide, I would say, typically.
we have an idea.
Yeah.
This one, there was none. This is all off the cuff, other than the open segment in which we talked about. So I do want to talk about real quick, without giving away any heavy metal hot takes that we're going to have. What y'all been listening to here the past week? We've been jamming.
Ooh. Well, Tyler, you or me first?
You go ahead, homie.
Okay. So, inadvertently shouting out a band. This is a band I feel as if I've heard of before. But I believe their newest album recently dropped because I was scrolling on YouTube in my Huggle the other night.
In your Huggle.
And something about the mix, we've talked about it before, the mix of rap, metal, rock, and especially these guys, they can write the hell out of a chorus. Their chorus will captivate you and it will bring you in.
I think I know who you're talking about.
And this band is Nothing Nowhere.
Yep.
And this may be a band that everybody listening has heard before. For whatever reason, I had never came around to them, or maybe I did and didn't realize it at the time. But the newest album, it's pretty damn good. So Nothing Nowhere. Other bands, I've been listening to the newest Greyhaven album. I can't get away from that album because it's incredible.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
They're amazing live is what they are.
Yes, if you haven't listened to Greyhaven, please go listen to those guys. If you're anything like me, it might take you a while to truly get into them, but once you do, you will be locked in. And I delved back into some old All That Remains.
Oh, yeah, that's right. You did.
Yep,
So
I delved back into some old.
this
All
is
That
all. I
Remains.
mean, we all kind of know what we've been listening to because we send it in the group
Yeah,
chat
we
that we
talk
talked
about it
about.
every
But
day.
yeah, dude, you were listening to like Fall of Ideals, All That Remains, right? And Overcome.
Fall of Ideals and Overcome. Yep.
Yeah.
Well,
so,
and the other artist, really quick, and we'll get back on that. The new NF album is incredible.
we'll get
Absolutely
back more on that.
incredible.
More on that later. So,
Okay.
what? Damn it. The name of the band is. I just had a Tyler moment. that deathcore band you sent me with the female vocalist.
Oh, goodness gracious. They sound like a mix of Kill Switch with deathcore. What was it? I'm going to have to scroll all the way back. I feel bad for
While
not
you're doing that,
remembering
Tyler,
their name.
what you been jamming, bro?
So you guys actually may not know what I've been jamming
Have you been hiding shit, bro?
because I don't share everything in our group chat because,
Well, this is the first I'm hearing of this, you son of a bitch.
well, it's because I know there's a lot of things that I listen to that maybe you guys don't really fuck with that much. So like, I've been diving
fuck
back
with a
into.
lot of shit.
I know you do, but I've been listening to a lot of like Iration and Rebulation.
Oh, I love Rebulation. I don't know Irish.
And
I thought that was
um,
one band name. Iration and Rebulation. No, it's two different bands.
It's two different bands, and
oh,
they're
real
very.
quick, I found it. That band was Dying Wish, and I believe it was their newest single, Torn From Your Silhouette. And that song is gnarly.
I'll touch on them in a minute.
Yep.
Continue, Tyler.
So yeah, I've been in a kind of a reggae mood this past week.
Soft.
Well, you can say I'm soft, but look,
Hey, I love Revolution, man. I'm just
I
talking
love
shit.
me some reggae,
Yeah,
man.
it's awesome.
I was
Yeah.
a huge Sublime fan.
Yep. Me
It's like
too.
2 or 3
Me
episodes in a
too.
row you've called him soft.
Yeah, but those fucking blisters are still there, bitch. You don't have shit like that. I'd love to see you try. Anyway, call me soft, motherfucker.
We're gonna have a
He told me I was a shitty guitar player on
Yeah.
episode 4. He's a dick, bro.
He's canceled.
And I did call you a dick on this show already.
Preston, you suck,
Preston is
man.
canceled.
He's done.
All right, this is cancel culture. All right, but I really like reggae, and it's for me, it's my good mood music. I know a lot of people typically will listen to like hip hop and party music and shit like that. I listen to reggae.
Mhm.
And one thing I will say is you would be surprised how much influence I pull bass wise from some of these bands, because
There's a groove, baby.
reggae is so much about the groove of the
Yep.
song, and that bass in every song has to carry that. And they do a really good job of it. And I'll be listening to some of this stuff, and I'll add it to my playlist just because of the bass line. And so through listening to them and going through like the similar artist shuffle, I've found a bunch of other bands in that realm that I've been listening to. But I too have been listening to a lot of the NF album.
Yeah, I mean, you sent it to me the other morning. I didn't even realize he had a new album.
Yeah,
Dropping.
so
Well,
I
it's
knew
been-
it was
It's been a week now, but
I knew it was coming, and I woke up that morning and had the notification that it released, and I was super excited. And then driving into work that morning, I was listening to it, and that was a long drive. But
felt like a lifetime.
yeah, so there's that, and I've honestly been playing some Mac Miller lately too.
There we go. Love
So I
that.
haven't really been listening to much metal.
Okay.
However, you did send that All That Remains song in the group chat, and so one day in the gym, I decided I was going to listen to that because I'm not listening to reggae in the fucking gym. That's just not what you do. But
Is he a
you be in there trying to find the joints.
He's a gym gatekeeper.
gatekeeper?
You be trying to find the joints and trying to like touch women. It's not.
Gee.
Look, reggae's some sexy shit. So
Ooh, we're going down a path.
Kyler just swallowed his chew.
I did. I swallowed a whole fucking dip, man. Good thing I got ice cold Coors Light to drink.
but no, so I was listening to that All
Speaking
That
of
Remains album, and I hadn't heard it in so long. There was really only the one album that I had ever really dove into from them, and I really enjoyed it. So go ahead and plug that album because that was good.
The All That Remains album?
Mhm.
Overcome.
That was Overcome, I believe.
And I'm sure a lot of the listeners, if you're into
have-
the kind of music we're here on this show talking about, Overcome is an incredible album.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the Mount Rushmore of metalcore, they're on it.
They're definitely on it.
So, all right, well,
I'll say really quick, and I don't want to delve too deep into a tangent, but it is what we do on this
we
show.
got time, bro. That's what we do.
In regards to All That Remains, there was something at the time that All That Remains, very similar, here I am plugging Polaris again, but very similar to what Polaris did for me, where me and you say they just do something else for me, right? It feels like nobody else does exactly what they do for me. And it would have been probably around 2009, 2010 that me and you truly got into those guys.
It was right before we got our driver's licenses, so yes.
Okay.
So yes,
that makes
2009, 2000,
and I know we had probably heard their music before because Six was on a Guitar Hero.
it was on Guitar Hero.
But something about, we've mentioned our influence of Metallica.
They were thrashy.
Yeah. Something about the way I know it was like their tunings were dropped a half step down, but they still stayed in a standard type tuning rather than a drop tuning with the top two strings. And it resonated with me. It was just like a heavier, grittier Metallica to me.
With unclean vocals.
With unclean vocals. And it kind of, what's the word? Shot me into really the harsher vocals and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm absolutely grateful for All Things All That Remains.
So you were the which I loved All That Remains. I still do, but you were that was your band. That was your Polaris back in the day.
It was. Yeah, All That Remains was it.
Mine was Bullet.
Yep.
And Bullet for My Valentine for me was, just like you said, a reincarnation of Metallica. They had the most gorgeous clean tone you would ever hear. They still do. There's no one that has a better clean tone than Bullet. Go back and listen to anything off the first 3 albums, Poison, Scream, Aim, Fire, any of them. They have the most gorgeous clean tone ever. And Metallica had fantastic clean tone. So, and I thought that Bullet did a great job of combining thrash metal with hardcore, unclean vocals, and the songs that they wrote were incredible.
They were great songs.
They're fantastic. They're fantastic songwriters. And they played Jacksons back in the day.
You're a Jackson lover.
I'm a big Jackson guy.
Yep.
And I was just obsessed with them. Like, I don't know why they did it for me so much more than like All That Remains did, but I just thought that their style was more my speed, I guess, more. And All That Remains and Bullet are so similar yet so different at the same time.
Yeah, it's really weird if you say it out loud.
When you sit there and think about it, you're like, wow, those are two bands that at least I put on the Mount Rushmore of like metalcore, like original, like the start of true metalcore.
It was like true metalcore. Trivium,
Killswitch,
All That Remains,
As They Lay Dying, all those bands that came out in the early 2000s, some of them in the late 90s, but
and I know there were some underground metalcore bands,
Under Oath, Hatebreed. There's some other stuff like that, but the ones that really pulled everybody into that genre, right?
Yeah.
And Bullet for me was just that one that really did. Because see, I didn't really get into As They Lay Dying until I was in like college. I don't know why. I just never really got that deep into them. But Bullet for me was just, whew. I mean, I had every single CD I had, and then when we had iPods or whatever, I had every freaking album on the iPod, and to this day I still have all their music on my phone because and I do All That Remains too. And when one of those songs come on, I'm like, I feel like I'm 15 again, bro, and I'm losing my shit. So, we just got off on a little tangent. So in doing that.
Well, I mean, we're talking about what we've all been listening to. And
I forgot that band name already. Dying Wish, is that what it was?
Dying Wish, Torn from Your Silhouette.
Yeah, so
was the single I sent.
I have been in I haven't sent y'all everything I've been listening to.
Bring it.
I've been in a deathcore vibe lately.
Okay,
so
you have been.
I have been. So Dying Wish is one that I've been jamming their shit. They have a female vocalist. And the last deathcore band that I listened to also had a female vocalist, Arch Enemy. If any of you are some of the big deathcore fans out there, death metal fans, I used to be a huge Arch Enemy fan. I don't listen to them as much as I used to, but so Dying Wish, I've been jamming them. Anybody that's listening to this has been, or at least has heard of Slaughter to Prevail out of Russia. Those dudes fucking jam. And I have been
It's like a modern feel to it,
it
as
is.
well.
But
yeah.
if you listen to their lyrics, what lyrics are in English, they're like really like peace and anti-war and that
Okay.
kind of shit. Like their song 1984,
Mhm.
which is like my favorite right now, is very anti-war. And they just fucking jam, dude. Ivan the Terrible is what their frontman's called, and he is the nastiest howler I've ever heard.
Yeah, he
just
is gnarly.
disgusting. So yeah, I've been in a deathcore vibe, but I've also been listening to a lot of Matchbox 20,
Beautiful.
Lifehouse.
Rob Thomas is a fucking legend.
So I've been in a big alternative rock
Sweet.
or whatever you
Sweet.
want to classify them as.
And you still haven't got into movements yet.
I don't know why. I just you haven't sent their music in a long time.
We
so I
haven't,
haven't.
yeah.
Yeah. So that's
Me
another
and
band I
Tyler
need.
kind of know to not send movements in that chat because we never know if you're going to listen to it or not.
That's fair, but I have been in a bit of an alternate rock kind of vibe because it's good. If you listen
It's
to
feel good stuff, man.
it's feel good shit.
Yep.
And I'll go from some deathcore to this past week. It's just been from deathcore to alt music, and Matchbox 20 is my absolute favorite of that genre. But I do love Lifehouse. I do love Fuel. I was
Probably
never a big
remember
Goo
Third
Goo
Eye
Dolls
Blind?
fan.
Third Eye
Yeah,
Blind?
I do love Third
Yep.
Eye Blind. Yeah, my parents
Sure,
were
Ray.
big Third Eye Blind fans.
Okay.
But see, like I was never a big Goo Goo Dolls fan.
We told y'all we listen to everything.
Yeah, we do. So I was never a huge Goo Goo Dolls fan, but they're in that vein too, and obviously a legendary band, and they have some good songs.
Mhm.
You love Train.
I absolutely love
Train's a band that you
Yep.
could put in that
Yep.
too. The Fray is another
The Fray.
another
Woo!
great. But you
Fray
like the
might
Fray, don't
be
you,
my
Tyler?
I do
favorite.
like the Fray.
Yeah,
The
the Fray.
Fray-
I like how they incorporate piano into rock.
I do too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a big Elton John fan.
Uh-huh.
If you want to go way back and talk about piano and rock music.
Yep.
And I love Elton John. My dad was a big Elton John fan. Benny and the Jets was like his favorite song and album from Elton John. So I love incorporating piano into rock. So if you listen to like Jerry Lee Lewis, have you ever heard of him?
I don't
He
know
was
that I
he
have.
was a rock musician, piano player, toured with Elvis and Johnny Cash and all those guys back in the day. Great Balls of Fire, that's a Jerry Lee Lewis song.
Oh, okay.
So, but they called him the Killer. He was crazy. But anyways, he married like his 13-year-old cousin. Dude was
weird.
wild. Yeah, dude was wild. So, but he started doing some country stuff, right? And he just had this attitude about him, and he was such a talented songwriter and was multi-genre and all that. So, again, Tyler, your sentiment of including piano and rock music, I absolutely love, because
yeah.
piano is an instrument I think is so hard to play, and
It is a bitch.
yeah. So, but yeah,
But
I've been in a
What's crazy, if I'm not mistaken, I know Derek was kind of explaining it. It would have been a week ago or 2 weeks ago. The piano would be simpler than a guitar.
So it is simpler to understand,
Okay.
harder to play.
fair.
No wonder I can't
The
fucking play that
reason
damn thing.
the reason being is, we talked a little bit about music theory on here before, and it was you got 12 notes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, those 12 notes are laid out in this very linear format. It's right there. But to do anything interesting with it, you have to do shit with your hands that are not natural.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I play bass, I play guitar, but I have to use my hands in a completely different way on the piano than I do on those instruments. And the way that each hand can sometimes be doing the same thing, but the motion and the finger position is so different on each hand.
Yeah.
And you don't know what the fuck you're going to be doing. You might be building chords with your left hand on one song and your right hand on another, and it gets fucking wild.
So in the essence of loving piano, I love Stevie Wonder too.
Oh, yeah.
Very superstitious. That shit gets me going.
Writings on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. So Tyler, I'm gonna recommend a country artist to you right now
Okay.
that's no longer living. Oh wait, is he still alive? He might still be alive. He might. I might have just fucked that up. He might still be alive. I'm not sure.
Y'all tell us if he's alive or not.
Ronnie Millsap is his name.
I know that name. But
Okay,
can't
so
think of
Ronnie
his song.
Millsap was real big in the 80s and the 90s, and he was a country artist. He was blind. He was a piano player, but his music was very rock and roll vibe for country music. And my favorite song by him is "Prisoner of the Highway," and "Stranger in My House," all that. So there's a lot of good songs by Ronnie Milsap. So if you like piano, and that kind of rock vibe, you might like Ronnie Milsap. So check him out.
I'll give it a try.
Give it a shot. Man, now I want to jam some fucking Ray Charles or something.
We sit
like
here and
all
talk
these-
about music the whole time. I'm like, fuck, play it.
Yeah, play it. So, but yeah, I've been kind of all over the place with my my music the past week, and when I go home tonight, I'm probably going to listen to Ronnie Milsap. So, we were talking about pianos. You got me wanting to listen to piano. So, well, boys, let's hop right into heavy metal hot takes, because I'm sure we'll have some good ones and have some have to dedicate some pretty serious time to talking about them. So
I'm really going to piss some people
Preston,
off.
I'm curious to hear what yours is. Tyler always has a fucking killer one, so we'll save him for last, so, like we always do. So Preston,
If
let's hear it,
y'all
baby.
hate me after I say any of this, I do not care.
You can get fucked.
So I'm just double checking my own research here. And my hot take is that the band Architects is the most underrated metalcore band.
You mean
Or,
overrated?
Excuse me.
Whoa.
Ha! Gotcha! No,
I was about to
most
say.
overrated metalcore band that
Like
I don't
ever?
know of all time, but of recent, recency bias, they're the most overrated metalcore band that I can think of off the top of my head.
What's your reasoning?
So it's not that I don't like this band by any means, because I do think they make good music. But as I scroll through my YouTube and watch all these videos, and as time has went on, I've seen Architects blow up way faster than some of these other bands that I've listened to. And maybe on the business side, they just did a hell of a lot better job.
Sure.
Maybe that's the case. But it's like, why are these guys getting the recognition and the fame and all this other stuff that these other bands that I listen to, and I know it's biased, but that's the reason for the hot take.
Yeah, it's all subjective.
Why are they blowing up, and a band like a Polaris, like Moths to Flames, who have been doing it forever, or whoever else, just not on that level? And I cannot figure out why.
They're not getting the same amount of attention.
At all. Not even close. Not even close.
Yeah, I mean, so I am not an Architects fan. I never have been.
I'm a fan, but
See, I'm not
still.
even that.
Okay.
So it's I agree with that statement that they're probably the most, or one. I wouldn't say the most, because I'm telling you what, all I see right now is fucking bands like Sleep Token and Ghost, and they fucking suck.
there's
in my
another hot
opinion.
take for people.
That's not my hot take, but I guess there's another hot take.
I don't like Ghost.
Yeah,
They're not metal.
They're not.
They look metal, but it's not metal.
It's not.
maybe there's a whole message.
And Sleep Token
behind
is
it, I
sex
don't know.
rock. That's what it is.
I'm not a Sleep Token fan, and you know what?
It should be called Sleep With Me Token.
Someone I talked to recently was sending me some Sleep Token songs, and I was like, yeah, I'm not a fan. And their response was, that's fair, but like their story's great. And I was like, well, I don't really care about their story. I don't
Unless you like their
songs.
music.
Yeah. I'm not gonna get invested in who they are as a person if their music sucks.
Like, it's great that they have a great story and stuff, but like I learned in college that a lot of bands, like, if you don't have a story, it's really hard to get people to follow you. And so that when you go through school for like music marketing and shit, they talk about having a story a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very widely used business practice throughout any industry you go through. Trying to grow a business, you tend to have a good story to get other people involved. And so that's what they do, man. They're like, here's our super awesome story. Listen to our music.
Well,
Okay,
Hey,
but
listen.
I'm not going to stick around just because your story is cool.
Jerry Lee Lewis had an incestual underage marriage with his 13-year-old cousin, but his music was fucking awesome.
Your story sucks, bro, and it's kind of weird.
man, we started this with architects and we
But
got
Great
on
Balls
sleep
Fire,
token real
baby, let's
fast.
go.
But again, the Architects thing is, I feel like they're one of those cookie cutter metalcore bands. And
I don't know.
And maybe they are,
Yeah.
like you said, Preston. Maybe they're master marketers, or they had a little money up front and they were able to self promote better than a lot of these bands are able to. I'm not saying they make bad music. I'm just saying that they get way too much hype for what they're actually doing.
That last album, to me, I thought it sucked.
It was worse than Dayseeker's last album,
They are
Oof.
easier.
which was horrible.
They are easier to listen to for the masses
Yeah.
versus
Okay.
a Polaris or like Moths to Flames that
Yeah.
just put out a single labeled. Well, did they label it as deathcore or what?
It's
It was
on Apple
like
Music.
Moss-
It's
it was
death metal
deathcore-
and black
death-
black metal.
It was death
Yeah.
metal / black
Yeah,
metal.
so that's not going to be as easy to listen to
and it's
for-
not.
for the masses.
yeah.
And so that's why a band like Architects is getting more attention because they're appealing to a wider audience.
I guess, but it's like metalcore fans that I see talking about them. So it's like, I would assume these metalcore fans,
But in that
listen to
same sense,
these guys too.
it's almost like, okay, so like metalcore fans like us also listen to Secrets,
yeah.
Dance Gavin Dance. They're
Mhm.
different, right? They're not metalcore.
Okay.
So I guess in defense a little bit of Architects, it's not that traditional monuments, moths, whatever.
It's kind of like Architects took Amity Affliction's place. Like the hype.
You know, Amity still has like a huge cult following, though.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
they still have a ton of fans, and their music nowadays.
I think they just dropped something
They
new,
did.
but I didn't
It's
listen.
not good.
I didn't listen.
I heard it on TikTok today. It's not
Okay.
good. They haven't been good since Pittsburgh, bro.
Whew.
But I just think that some of those bands are able to, if we really want to go down the rabbit hole, there is something about
What we're
every
here for.
band we listen to that catches us. We're like, I like that.
Mhm.
And then when another band does just one of those things, when that person hears it, they're like, ooh, I like that too. So I think Architects has done a good job of, they're not original. I don't think anything about Architects is original. Okay? So they have done a good job of copy and pasting a lot of successful metalcore bands.
Well, and Josh, their lead guitarist, he's a badass. I'm not denying that. But yeah, I see where you're coming from. It just
Yeah. There's a lot of
maybe I'm
copy and
just,
paste
once
in the
again,
genre
just
right now.
jealous of the hype. I don't know.
No, it's and everybody listening, everything we're saying is personal opinion.
Yeah,
Don't get
yeah,
upset.
it is.
It's just personal
Oh,
opinion.
I'm sure I.
We
pissed
haven't
off
done a
lot
personal
of
opinion
people.
episode in a while, but
Yep.
that's what Heavy Metal Hot Takes is
I think
for,
I
so
pissed off a lot of people.
it's all
with
good.
that, but that's
Yeah.
how
Yeah,
I feel.
Architects
That's
is
how you
extremely
feel.
talented. They're very popular. They're just not our cup of tea. I think all three of us would kind of agree on that.
I've heard songs from them that I like, but it's not a band I go to
They just
to
don't
really
stand out to me.
to really listen to. And I listen to albums, so I don't typically
Yeah.
go and just find like one or two songs I want to listen to. I want to be able to hit play and, get me through the majority of my commute without having to fuck around with changing songs and stuff. And I don't think any of their albums is something I can just listen through all the way
Yeah.
and enjoy.
Well, I guess I'll go ahead and do mine.
Bring it.
I think we closed that one out pretty well.
Yeah, I think so. Bad Omens is the modern day Breaking Benjamin. And what I mean by that
Mm.
is that overnight they have taken over the metal world of fandom. Bad Omen's newest album, which is fucking incredible, and it's completely different than the album that came before, which was straight up metalcore. This new album is so much different, and it's been out since last year. But it became an overnight sensation in the past couple months. I think. I mean,
Yeah,
it
it
was
feels
in
like
like
it.
January, but like Just Pretend has been at number 1 on the Billboard for like 3 months.
Ooh, yeah.
I mean, months.
Yep.
And it's like people are finally starting to realize, holy shit, these dudes are talented and they write amazing songs. And Noah Sebastian, their front man, is one of the most talented vocalists in the genre. And I feel like, Breaking Benjamin might not be the perfect example of that, but like Breaking Benjamin to me felt like they came from, oh, have you heard of this band who, holy
took it
shit,
over.
they're headlining stadium tours.
Yes.
And it felt like overnight. And Breaking Benjamin took over the genre.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Bad Omens has done that. And I'm telling you what, I'm fucking obsessed with him. And I love their last album, but I don't even know that their last album hooked me in a way that the latest one has. The Death of Peace of Mind, that just absolutely drew me in. And there is so much different shit on that album.
Yes.
And it just, oh my God, I don't know. I mean, I put it on repeat and I'm just captivated by it. And I get why they're so popular now, because the new album has so much shit that my fiance does not like the stuff I listen to, and she loves Bad Omens now because this latest album.
That's the audience they've captured.
But she likes she likes Noah's screams.
Okay.
And she never cared too much for unclean vocals before, but now she's like all about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow. So that's like an experiment for me, because it's like this girl who, this woman who loves hip hop and all that kind of stuff and never really cared for that kind of stuff. And Bad Omens has been able to turn her onto a whole new musical experience. And I'm like, there are very few bands that can do that.
Yeah.
So, and it might not be a hot take, it might be, but Bad Omens has completely taken over rock and metal music in the past couple months.
It's awfully bold.
It's a hot take for a reason, bro.
I feel like it was Architects that did before. More on the metal core side,
Yeah.
not just overall rock metal music.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I mean, the stuff that I've seen just floating out there as of late, it feels like, I mean, there's a buddy of mine I went to school with. He posted about Bad Omens a few weeks ago, talking about how he loved them. And I'm like, man, this band did exactly what they wanted to do. They attracted this guy that's a fan of rock and maybe some metal music, and he fell in love, just like a Breaking Benjamin.
And the thing is so many people that I've talked to have gone back and listened to their older stuff. Even their first album from 2016, they've listened to that, and they're like, oh yeah, it's heavier, but it's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've actually like looked at like downloads, and the amount of downloads that have increased on their first two albums is just mind-boggling. So them as a whole have just exploded. They're playing Knotfest. They're playing huge shows. And you cannot scroll on TikTok or Twitter without seeing something about Bad Omens playing a live show. There's so many live performances out there. And the thing is, I think that's great about them. They're probably better live than they are on a record.
Whew.
And they're next on my list of must-see live.
Yeah.
Because I can't wait to experience that live, because they're very interactive with their crowd. Noah's voice is just serenading live. I mean, even on a shitty ass cell phone recording, it sounds incredible. So, yeah, I know, Tyler, it's a bold statement, but
So
He's got something to say.
yeah, of course I got something to say. I'm opinionated. Got to pronounce it out,
sound it out.
We're from the sticks. Anyway,
Opinionated.
So hearing more of what you each were saying helped me contextualize what you were saying a little better. So when you were saying they're like Breaking Benjamin, I'm like, well, no, they're not.
Oh, I think it's
But
perfect the way you explained it.
explaining it the way that you did, as far as, a band that seems to fit in with all the other bands, kind of on the same level. No one's really took over the genre. It's just this motley crew of bands out there. And then just one pops up and shines. And so I would agree that Bad Omens has accomplished that. And there are people out there that I never would have expected would listen to this kind of music,
Mm-hmm.
and they're telling me about Bad Omens. And so a real
Already
world
been there,
example of why I think they're taking over the genre is kind of like Preston's experience with Greyhaven.
Okay.
And so
Color me intrigued.
Yeah.
yeah. So I had been sharing Greyhaven in our group chats for like 2 fucking
2
years.
It's been a while,
It's
yeah.
been a long time.
And I've
And these
listened to him
guys-
since then.
These guys would just be like, Kyler would just be like, nah,
yeah,
not something I'm going to listen to.
He's a little closed-minded on some stuff.
Preston would listen to it, but he would just be like, I don't feel it.
I always appreciated it, but it never when something just slaps you.
Right.
It didn't happen
like Bad
until
Omens.
And so
Yeah.
look, I ended up getting Preston into Greyhaven through another band.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I started sharing Norma Jean to you guys, there were some songs that you guys started to get into.
And already knew.
And kind of already knew, but you guys really started to get into Norma Jean with their last album that they put out.
All hail. Yep.
And then with the newest album that they put out, Preston, you were a huge fan of it.
Yeah.
The newest?
Death
The
Rattle.
newest.
Oh, yeah.
And so
I was sold on Norma Jean after All Hail.
and so
once I
shortly
went-
Yeah, All Hail
after
hooked me too.
Yeah.
yeah, shortly after that album drops, Greyhaven dropped a new album.
And I feel, real quick, like such a newbie or what, because I know Norma Jean has been doing it so much longer before All Hail. But All Hail was that gateway for me to listen to that and then go all the way back through the stuff and then continue.
Yeah, so it was it was similar enough to what you were already listening to
Mhm.
because they kind of polished some things up, changed their sound a
Yep.
little bit. It wasn't as raw.
Yep.
It didn't sound like a bunch of dudes jamming in a room and just burning the fucker down.
Yeah, it did. It just sounded better.
So
You could hear it.
So from the newest album, Death Rattle, from Norma Jean, and then Greyhaven drops a new album, and Preston's like, bro, I understand it now.
Yeah.
I get it.
And he was telling me how him being more into Norma Jean and kind of diving back into some of their older stuff, kind of that more hardcore vibe rather than a metalcore. And Greyhaven would fit more into that hardcore format just because they got a little bit of that punk to them.
Mm-hmm.
And they are pretty raw. And so listening to that album, you became obsessed, and you mentioned earlier that you haven't been able to get away from that album.
I have not.
And so to get to my point for time's sake, Bad Omens is similar enough to other music out there in like pop and like this new age of music, being able to incorporate some different sounds and a more polished sound and these very amazing clean vocals and stuff like that.
Good melodies.
But they're also doing this while fundamentally playing metalcore music. And so it has become this gateway for a wider audience to come in and say, we relate to this music because the vocals are similar to what we're hearing in other styles of music, or these different sounds that we're hearing with like the electronics and stuff are similar enough to other stuff that we listen to that we kind of relate to it. And so they're just captivating a wider audience and kind of bringing more people into this. Hey, listen to some other metalcore stuff. Listen to our older albums that were more metalcore and see if you like that. And a lot of people are finding that they're fucking metalcore fans.
Yeah.
And they just
They
never
had no clue.
realized it. Just
What-
like you are a fucking Greyhaven fan or a
It took me 2 years to
hardcore
realize
fan.
it.
And it just took you a while to realize it because you had to find the bridge
Yes.
between what's familiar to you and what this different thing is.
Yep.
And without that bridge, without that one thing that's similar between the two, you really can't gravitate from one side to the other.
And another example, really quick, of a situation like that. I remember growing up being into all these bands and showing my younger sister all these bands that maybe I think she would like. And a band that did that for her, that got her into the heavier stuff, but because we grew up around R&B and hip hop, was Issues.
Oh yeah,
I introduced.
that's right. Mackenzie
Yes,
loved
she was
Issues.
obsessed with them.
Yes.
So I introduced her to Issues, and then her musical acumen and taste and just what she was after had always increased after Issues. So a band like Greyhaven, there's been several bands that have done that for me, but a band like Greyhaven, a band like Norma Jean, a band like Dance Gavin Dance, which I hated at first.
Mhm.
I feel like Bad Omens has done that for like Tyler says, a wider audience.
Yeah, I think Tyler did a better job of explaining my hot take than I did, and
I think he made a really good point with the whole Breaking Benjamin.
yeah,
thing.
well, it's just I mean, overnight just took it over,
Yeah,
and I think that when a band is able to show versatility, they're able to change their sound and get better.
Mhm.
You know, they're a great group,
yeah,
and that's why I think
they don't feel like sellouts either.
No, not at
Uh-uh.
all. Because there is bro, Artificial Suicide is that's almost a deathcore
I
song.
call that the motherfucker
song. Yep. Yeah, the motherfucker song. So there are still a couple songs on that record that are straight up metalcore. Then there's some that are like 80s synth techno. Then there's some that are like love ballads. There's some, I mean, it's just when a band is able to show that much versatility and be good at it and become instantly popular because of it, that's what I consider a great group. And Tyler, I think you did a fantastic job of explaining my own hot take.
It was long-winded. However, we got to the point.
No, it was perfect. And Bad Omens, you mentioned a gateway, right?
Mm-hmm. A bridge.
When I think of like gateway bands, right? Like for me, so I think back, a great gateway band for me was Godsmack.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm in the thrash metal, 80s hair metal, even power metal mode, right? Iron Maiden, Metallica, Megadeth, Rat, even Pantera, hardcore type
Mhm.
metal. And then here comes something like Godsmack. And, dropped their first album in the late 90s. And I'm like, this is like straight up Attitude. This is like, what is this? And they were a great gateway band for me into modern metal. And another gateway band for me was Slipknot.
Ooh.
Because, Slipknot's first album was fucking insane. And it was just completely different than anything that I'd been listening to before. So I think Bad Omens is becoming that gateway band for a lot of the younger generation, but also just people who maybe weren't in that vein of heavier metal, metalcore,
Mhm.
that type of shit. And bands like that are transcendent. They're just different. It has nothing to do with talent per se. It's just when you think about bands like that, you're like, wow, they did so much for music fans and music in general, just because they were able to bring a whole new group of people
Mhm.
to the genre.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I don't know, Preston, what, or Tyler, either one of you, what were some gateway bands for you that kind of brought
I'm
you? I
gonna
mean,
miss
we
so
talked about
many.
Greyhaven and Norma Jean. Norma Jean was one for me. But
Yeah, Greyhaven, Norma Jean. Back in the day, All That Remains was a gateway band to the heavier, harsher stuff. Asking Alexandria.
Crabcore.
Yeah, it was a gateway band for me. For whatever reason, I never got
Devil
into
Wears
Attack
Prada.
Attack.
Devil Wears Prada. Yeah, you
Um,
didn't get into Attack Attack.
Never got
but-
into Attack Attack. Memphis Mayfire, the early, it would have been the first album if I'm not mistaken. I remember a buddy in high school showing me that stuff. their first album, and I apologize, but I can't remember what it was. Maybe didn't like it at first, but
Bro,
gave
Devil
it
Wears
time.
Prada still putting out good music. I'm sorry, I just
They
went
just
off
dropped
on
an
a
album
tangent.
a few months ago.
A couple months ago.
A few months ago.
Danger Wild Man, still that shit though.
Oh man, other gateway bands for me: Memphis Mayfire, Greyhaven, Norma Jean. Asking
Like I said,
Alexandria.
mine was like Godsmack,
Yeah,
shit like that. Like when I was real young,
there's so many more bands.
I know
that-
there was so. I mean,
Yeah.
Tyler, I don't know what about you. Like,
I could go for a minute. So I'd say some of the first for me were the Chevelle, Seether, Breaking Benjamin, Creed, stuff like that. That's what started getting me into kind of a heavier level of music. And it was, I liked rock, I liked grunge, but what some of that hard rock gave me was just a little bit more oomph, a little bit more grit to it. And that kind of sent me down a certain musical journey with Screaming Evidence. When Sean and I first started writing songs and started trying to move things to electric, it was a lot of like the Seether and Chevelle that and Deftones and stuff like that we gravitated towards, that helped us take what we were doing on acoustic guitars based, on like bar chords and drop tuning and things like that we were doing on acoustic guitars, and moving it to electric. And from there, when we met Scotty, he was introducing me to All That Remains and Kill Switch and Bullet. And there was a point in my life where I listened to a lot of that stuff because I was just getting exposed to it. Didn't really know what it was. I didn't know it as metalcore. I just knew it as metal.
Yeah.
And, I got these fucking metalheads that I'm in a band with now that I really didn't know very well, but they were listening to this stuff and they were introducing me to it, and I was finding that I liked it a lot, and that sent me down the journey of heavier music and metal and stuff. And that's when I started getting into like Under Oath and Slipknot and some of these other new metal bands, Korn, stuff like that. And I really didn't travel down the metalcore lane until later in life when I came across Of Mice and Men.
yeah,
Of Mice and Men is what really sent me down this metalcore journey.
Favorite
oh
at
my
the
god,
time.
absolutely. The Flood, that album
Yeah.
is just
And I had found them.
shout out Ohio, baby.
Yeah, and I had found them a little bit before I met Preston. And when I met Preston, he started sharing all these metalcore bands, and then he introduced me to Kyler. And so then we all just hit it off based on the music we listened to. Kyler, I guess, had actually been to one of our shows like a couple years prior, so he was already
Before I was-
somewhat
yeah.
familiar.
Like 3 or 4 years before you
Yeah,
joined the band. Yes, it was over at the
American Legion.
the Legion. I almost said the VA, the American Legion. Yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't until I met these guys that I really started diving into metalcore and heavier music. And, I'd only found bands like Of Mice and Men and Norma Jean and stuff like that on my own just before I met them.
So, I'm going to tell you a bit of a funny story, and I'm sure there's some folks listening that can relate. Something that got me into some of those gateway bands I talked about, like Drowning Pool, Slipknot, Godsmack, Disturbed, all that, were video games.
Yeah.
And-
oh yeah.
Red Jumpsuit Apparatus. Like, there were so many, Crossfade,
Mm-hmm.
the old MX versus ATV games, ATV
Yeah.
Off-Road Fury games. All those games soundtrack was all those bands.
Yep.
And again, I was in that 80s thrash metal,
Mhm.
hair metal. That's what I was listening to when I was 10, 11, 12, a little younger. And then I start listening or playing these video games, playing these dirt bike and ATV video games, skating games, Tony Hawk games, and I start hearing
Hoobastank is how I found out. I found out Hoobastank by it might have been a Tony Hawk game or something like that.
Yeah, so I mean that game, those games, I start listening to the soundtrack and I'm like, dude, this shit fucking jam. What is this?
Yeah.
And then you can go on the menu and look at the soundtrack and it will tell you what they are. And I'd go and I would get on LimeWire. I'd crash my computer.
That's a whole fucking episode.
Yeah, it is. I'd crash my computer downloading these songs that I heard on these video games. And
you sure it wasn't with porn?
No. I do remember though when I was 12 and Dad come in, I'm gonna tell you how to delete the history.
My dad didn't even look.
No, my dad looked and was like, before your mom looks, here's how you delete this. I'm like, oh, thanks, Dad, appreciate you.
We're gonna go on
big
a
dick,
slight,
small mouth.
We're gonna go on a slight tangent here.
That's metal as fuck.
We're gonna go on a slight tangent because this is metal as fuck too. So look, when I'm in a family of nothing but women. All right. So growing up, it was me, my mom, my two sisters, and my stepdad. But on the family computer, I had ventured into the dark spots of the web, the deepest, darkest crevices of the internet. And I found titties.
Yes.
And I found ass. And I found all these dirty videos. And Mom gets on the computer and finds out, and she didn't want to address me directly, so she tells my dad. And at this time, I'm probably like 12, maybe 13, and my dad had been teaching me how to play guitar at this point. This is when I really started getting serious about playing guitar. And we go to one of my dad's shows, and he chooses that time to address the situation.
That's metal as fuck.
Look, it gets so worse. It gets so much worse. Look, so we're in the middle of a crowd. My dad comes up to me and he's like, son, and my dad is like 6'4", towers over me.
He's a big dude.
And he's like, son, you been looking at smut? I was like,
he said smut. Like it's 1956.
What the fuck?
And I didn't even have to know what the word meant to know what he was asking, is the thing. I had no idea what smut was. But I could tell that I was busted. And I was like, no!
Jeez.
I was like, yeah, because I knew better than to lie to my dad.
Oh, my face hurts.
I knew if I told my dad the truth, 9 times out of 10, I probably wasn't getting in trouble. But if I lied to him, it was hell. So I'm like, yeah.
That's a horrible fucking liar.
And so my dad,
Yep.
my dad just kind of drops his head for a second, and he looks up at me, and he's like, son, you can't be doing that. I want you, as punishment for your actions, I want you to write a song about this.
That's metal as fuck.
And so here I am, just learning how to play guitar, and my dad's like, your punishment is you gotta write a song about the lesson you have learned about watching porn.
On the internet.
Tyler's sitting in his room going, tits, butt, ass, butt, dick, butt.
No. So I write this song, okay? And I threw a few chords together, and I wrote some lyrics.
Were
and I
the
was
chords
like,
BDSM? I just laughed at my
We're done.
joke.
We're done. Big dick.
no, it's so much worse.
Small mouth.
It gets so much worse. Look, so my dad, I would go to his house every other weekend, and I would expect that I'm going to spend a good amount of time in his
I'm trying
jam
to gather
room,
myself, okay?
learning how to play and stuff like that. And he would often on like Friday and Saturday nights would have his buddies over, his music buddies. And so one night I go there. I had reached the deadline for when I was expected to release my single, and he brings me up to his jam room and he says, "All right, son, play me your song." And he's got 6 of his buddies in his fucking room. And I swear, dude, the only thing I can remember from that song is the beginning lyrics. And it was a few chords. And it started off, "I have been a real bad boy."
This is real.
I think I like BDSM. Oh my God, this podcast has gone completely off the rails. What a way to end season 1.
But look, I play this song, and
You played the whole thing?
I played the whole song. And what was crazy about it is all his friends fucking loved it. They were so impressed
Oh,
by
God.
my ability to sing and play
About porn.
about fucking porn, and how I was able to write a song about it in a week notice. I had a week to do this. And I got a lot of good compliments. That's when I knew I was going to be a rock star.
Dude, Steel Panther, that's all they do is write. All Steel Panther does is write songs about porn. So your dad just went to a Steel Panther show. I think my son wrote that song.
That's my boy. That's what he would say. That's exactly what he would say.
Okay. Well, my face fucking hurts.
Whew, I hope everybody got a laugh out of that. 'Cause
Man.
I'd never
Well,
heard
can't
that.
laugh at yourself.
Look, if you can't
I
go back,
did. I laughed at my own joke.
if you call yourself a songwriter and you can't write a song about your
porn.
misdeeds, you suck.
It's the only reason Nirvana sold any records. Now Kurt Cobain doesn't have a face, so they're not writing any new songs. Last I heard.
They
Shit
got
Damn.
dark. They got
Shit
dark
got
quick.
Yeah, got pretty dark. So did Kurt Cobain's eyesight.
Where were we?
Oh, God. Sorry, Nirvana fans. Tyler, what's your fucking hot take, bro? Oh.
So this is the first hot take that these guys heard before the episode. And my
I'm
hot
intrigued.
take is that NF, the rapper, is metal as fuck.
Alex, context for 600, please.
So we've talked on this show about heavy as a feeling, and I have also mentioned through that conversation that I listen to a lot of these other genres and a lot of these other songs from these different artists that I feel could be made into a metal song, and it would fucking bang.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like a lot of NF's music could be turned into metal songs, and they would be fucking ragers.
Yeah.
And I get stink face sometimes when I'm listening to his stuff, and I think his style is very, very much the same as a metalhead would be.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not like his wardrobe style, but like
Sure.
his style
Neither
of
is Fred
music and
Durst.
shit. Right. So his musical style, I feel, is very along the lines of what metalheads are. And I feel like, unlike other rappers, he is talking about the same shit that we talk about in metal.
Yeah.
But he is a fucking lyrical, I don't know,
Genius?
mastermind, genius, whatever you want to call him. I mean, he is a bad motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, full disclosure, I had not listened to the album until tonight, and before we recorded, we were just hanging out, setting up the new mics and shit, and we were listening to the new NF album, and just listening to the lyrics, it's like, yeah, that dude should be writing metal songs. I mean, it's just very deep, it's very heavy.
Mm-hmm.
That dude, I mean, he is not, I hate modern rap. I fucking hate it. All about gangbanging and bitches and whatever else they fucking talking about.
Mm-hmm.
NF is rapping about real shit. I mean, that's Eminem level shit. That's Snoop
Mhm.
Dogg level shit. Like old school rap. Like it is real life experience, real life feelings. It is something that me, being a metalhead, can listen to and absolutely say that's metal as fuck.
It might be your own gateway to that. kind of
Absolutely.
genre.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. And
Gateway artist rather.
I would
than band.
encourage anybody that hasn't listened to NF to please go check out his new
Yeah, I
album.
mean he's
because
big enough by now. Everybody's probably
He's coming
heard
to
of
Columbus
him,
too.
but still.
He's coming to play the Shot this summer.
Okay.
So that
Oh
might
yeah,
be,
my buddy just asked me
I was gonna
yesterday.
say, that might be something.
July 7th.
Yeah, July 7th
7th
at the Shot in Columbus.
He was wanting me to go with him, and I believe I'll be in Myrtle Beach then. But
Yeah, I was gonna say if not, that might be something that you and me, Tyler, need to hit up.
Yeah,
that'd be
absolutely.
a heavy ass concert.
And I've actually heard one of
Just
his
did that on the mic,
songs.
my bad.
I've heard one of his songs played by a rock band that we have actually played music with.
Okay.
I don't remember their name, but up in Newark.
Okay.
At the show with Waste of White.
Dude has the long hair, has really high pitched vocals.
Oh, yes, it
I
was
can't
the show with
remember
Waste
his
of
name.
White.
Artifacts?
I think so.
Is it Artifacts? Was
But they
It was
they
at the-
played
with Bash?
Muddy Creek.
Yeah,
Saloon,
with
is that what it
Bash.
is?
Oh,
and
okay.
they play an NF
A
song
shout out,
and they play
shout
live.
out Artifacts. We haven't talked about those guys on this show.
It was at the
but-
Muddy Creek Saloon.
Yeah,
right?
I
With-
don't
yeah.
know if they're still playing or not. I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, they have been. They have been. I've
Okay.
been talking to Kagan.
So yeah, I mean, with hearing that music put into what I imagine it being when I listen to it, it was just like, man, that's fucking. And they made that song heavy as fuck
Uh-huh.
because they're kind of a metal band too.
Yeah.
I was like, fuck, man, NF can literally be a metal artist and write metal music, and it would be amazing.
No, if it's hip hop that or rap that I can listen to, then it's good shit. Just because that's not my genre, and I can, and
Yeah.
I like some of his old shit.
Yeah.
So,
Mm-hmm.
because I mean, you've been sharing him in the chat for years.
It's been a while.
So-
yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, I tattooed his first album onto my arm.
yeah,
It made the cut.
that's a hell of a cut to make to put on your body.
Indeed, it is.
I mean,
That's a commitment.
I know, I get it, but Preston, do you agree with him being metal as fuck?
I definitely see where he's coming from. I see why it would be a hot take because maybe people haven't thought.
Because it's gonna make people think, right?
Yeah, it's gonna make people think. But if you delve into some of his stuff, especially the more emotional rather than the super fast rap stuff, like you'll definitely notice.
Even
it.
some of his beats with some of those,
yeah.
faster rap, less singing, more rapping songs. The beats are like, dude, I could turn this beat into metal and it could just be a fucking rap rock album.
Yeah.
Let's encourage a little listener interaction here. We'll use this as the first heavy metal hot take that we want you guys to do a little homework on and give us some feedback on.
Absolutely.
Go listen to NF, specifically his newest album. Listen to the lyrics. Listen to the song structure. You tell us if you agree that NF is metal as fuck and could write metal music. So there's a little homework for the listeners out there. That was a great one, Tyler.
Mm-hmm. That was
I
a really
mean,
good one.
I come prepared.
It was great. It was great. Well, you guys got anything else to add real quick?
I know we already kind of touched on what we've been listening to lately. But I know in our first episode we did kind of a segment at the end where we said, here's a band we've been listening to, here's why we recommend them, and we encourage you to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
So, either of you have a particular band you would like to shout out that you haven't already talked about?
I got one.
I have an up and coming like I do at the end of every show, but I can save that.
Okay.
Give me,
Give me
let me give you my up and coming.
something else and the up and coming.
Okay, Preston, I'll let you go first, buddy, because you got
Okay.
a good one.
So I think in passing we had mentioned this band. We had also mentioned certain influences of Screaming Evidence as well, and we have mentioned the band Deftones
Mm-hmm.
very often.
Yep.
Something about the ambience, something about the heaviness, something about the diversity of the band. It seems like there's a trend of bands out there that's what they enjoy as well, and they're trying to recreate their own version of that. And I actually have two bands really quick. I would say somewhat similar, but slightly
They have their
quite
own,
a bit different.
they have
Quite
their
a
own
bit
thing.
different than each other. First band being the band known as Mood Ring.
I love Mood
If
Ring.
you have not listened to Mood Ring, please go back and listen to their stuff because these dudes are the real deal. And then the other band, a lot of people may have heard of before, and there's a lot out there that haven't, is Loathe.
I knew
Mm.
when you started
Yep.
the conversation, those were the two you were going to bring up because they're fucking awesome.
Loathe is in my top 5 favorite bands right now.
They
Yep,
they touch your soul, man.
absolutely. And any kind of song they make, because they can do it all.
And then, Derek was talking about depth.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those bands have depth to their music.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, to put it into perspective, Loathe, like, you know how Deftones would do a song like Sex Tape, and then they would
Yep.
do a heavier song like, I don't know, I guess you could say My Own Summer, or name a heavier one.
Control.
Control. Yeah.
Control, I think it is.
Loathe is so good at doing a song like, an example would be Two-Way Mirror.
Yeah.
And then a song like It's Heavy as the Head That Something the Crown or something of that sort. As well as New Songs in the Dark, which is kind of a mix of both. But yeah, if you haven't listened to Loathe or Mood Ring, I highly suggest it because if you're into Deftones, you're in. I about said Deftones.
Depth tones.
If you're into Deftones, you're into what's the other? I know that this would be more on the technical side, but the Contortionist, bands like that, I promise you'll like Mood Ring and Loathe.
Okay, so I'll give you my. First off, I'll give you my up and coming band shout out that I like to do every week. Yeah, Tyler saw it. Yeah. So my up and coming band shout out is a band out of Canada. Shout out Canada. Band is called Gutter King. Metalcore band from Canada. They have a new single out called Blood Rush that's really good. They commented on one of my TikToks and I said, well, I guess I better go listen to you guys, and I did, and I was really impressed. So always happy to shout out up and comers. So go check out Gutter King. They are on Apple Music. I'm sure they're on Spotify too, but Apple Music is where I listen to my shit. So Gutter King, new song Blood Rush. They got a couple other good ones. The names of the songs are escaping me. I listened to them today, but go check out Gutter King.
Hell yeah.
So, my band that I'm obsessed with and that is in the process of, and Tyler's over here fist pumping because he fucking loves them. And Tyler can take credit because he's the one that introduced me to them.
Uh-oh.
We won't get into the story. But
No, we won't. But they're getting ready to drop a new album. They do have a new single out called Witch House. Band is called Stellar Circuits.
Whoo!
So yeah, if you are
Damn.
into that, I don't even know if you can genre-ize
It's a
them.
Tool feel.
It's just
it's like 10 years and Tool
Yes.
had a baby.
There it is. There it
Yeah.
is. Yep.
So the song that Tyler got me into them with was called Nocturnal Visitors, and holy fuck, is it just an absolute jam.
How did it take us so long to find that
That's what
band?
I'm screaming.
Wasn't
Yeah.
it Derek that sent it to
Yes,
you?
it was Derek.
So Derek was listening
Shout
to Stellar
out
Circus
Derek.
first.
Yes,
so
he
yeah,
sent it to me,
Derek,
and then I
Derek from
blasted it
episode
to you
4
guys.
was the first one to even start listening to these guys, and then through Preston to Tyler to me, I was the last one. So, but Nocturnal Visitors was the first song that turned me on to them, and then they're coming out with a new album this year. Their first single off
And
that
it's been a
called-
few years.
called
I
Witch
believe.
House.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Witch House is, I mean, when you hear that super fast thrashy bass line in the beginning, you're like, oh, what is this? And it's,
Yep.
yeah, so go check out Stellar Circuits if you're into that Tool
10 years.
10 years.
They even have a Chevelle feel,
Rise
especially with the way that
Against.
he screams.
Yeah. It's real raw, real raspy.
really screechy. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, some
ugh,
parts,
it's
yep.
just, yeah. They're different. And I'm telling you,
He's
they're,
releasing demons with that scream.
bro, they're different.
That's just
They're
a demon scream.
So,
That's
yes.
another reference to that video that I told y'all to go find and watch. That's not rock, dude.
Go check out Gutter King. Go check out Stellar Circuits. T. Scott, what you got, bud?
Ooh, uh-oh.
All right, so I'm going to drop one that recently popped up again. So the band is called Holding Absence.
Oh God!
We
I
talk about
fucking
alt rock.
love Holding Absence.
We talk about alt
Look.
rock.
Look, so I found Holding Absence, I believe, through Loathe, because they done like a
There's a
there's a
collaboration.
collab there.
combined EP.
Didn't Holding Absence do something with Alpha Wolf too?
Yeah.
They did.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tyler. Go ahead.
And
I fucking
so
love Alpha Wolf. Continue.
through that like thing that they did together, I heard a few of the Holding Absence songs, and I liked the vocals. The music wasn't quite as heavy,
Mm-hmm.
but that's cool with me because of what I listened to. And so I went back and I started digging through their discography, and I started listening to some of their albums, and I would share them to Preston. Preston, I don't think you got into them for a minute. It took you a second.
No, so I had got into that collab with Loathe because I was delving through Loathe.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the song, and I believe it was by themselves, but it was on that EP. It was called Everything. Everything.
That song.
Yeah, it's got a bass line that'll drop your pants.
Well, I was pushing that to you hard because like it would get me in my feels. The
Yeah.
first time I heard it, I was on my way home from work and that song played, and I just happened to be thinking about some heavy things throughout the drive, and that song hit me and it about broke me down.
Yeah.
And like it was a song that after hearing it the one time, I restarted it as I was pulling into my driveway, and I sat in my driveway listening to that song again, and it just it hurt.
Yeah, and what was weird about Holding Absence for me was I got into that EP because they did that collab with Loathe. I got into specifically the song Everything, and then the album that had dropped after that, I had got into, but it didn't click with me for some reason. It didn't click with me. And then I would say it was probably 3 or 4 months ago, I went back to that album and delved back through it, and then now I'm a big Holding Absence fan, so I'm very
Great one. That's a
very
great one.
fucking glad you mentioned that.
They're great.
That was a great one.
Love it.
But you got
It's
me.
a mix of everything.
Yeah, that was a mix of
Yeah,
everything. There's
hell
some
yeah.
good shit in that. See, we are multi-level musicians, multi-level music fans. So we're not just here to talk about deathcore and
Yeah.
straight up metalcore. No, we went from NF to
Yeah.
to
hell
alt music. I mean, Matchbox 20. We talk country music. We talk it all. So, but we are a hard rock and heavy metal podcast. But that's
That's what we love.
so.
Well, I think a lot of metalheads listen to other stuff.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
We're
Hell yeah.
to a little arrogance here, but I think us as metal musicians, metal fans are the most open-minded, in-depth, talented, analytical music fans in the world, and I will die on that fucking hill.
I'll die on that hill with you, man. Like
Thank you.
I'll erect a statue.
I will backfill the soil.
Preston's like, I'm gonna watch y'all die.
I'm gonna watch you die,
clean
and
up
then
the
I'm
mess.
just gonna come make your graves look pretty. So, well, awesome. Well, guys, thanks for hanging out with us for season 1. What a fucking blast this has been. It's been a journey. It's been a ton of learning. It is grown.
A ton of learning.
It is grown and turned into something that when we first talked about it, and unfortunately, Preston, you weren't able to join us for the first episode with some prior commitments,
Obligations.
but when we started talking about this, I don't know that any of us ever dreamed that it would get to the level that it's at now, and I think we're all eternally grateful for our listeners, for our friends, for our family who support us putting in these long hours, for being away from
Hell
home. The listeners who give us great feedback. We've got 5-star ratings on all platforms, and that's thanks to you guys. And
Yep.
we are. I mean, I'm trying not to get a
Emotional?
little choked up here because I'm
He's
I'm-
soft.
I, I am a bit of a softie. My wife, my fiance would tell you that, but I'm so thankful to all of you who have made this possible and continue to make this possible, because you guys give us the reason to continue to do this, to do it better, to invest the time, invest the money,
Yep.
invest the thought process that it takes that we put into every episode, and going out and getting guests, and it's all because of you guys, the listeners. So I'm keeping my emotions contained here for a minute. I'm going to let one of these two guys talk before I start getting real emotional here. So
Yeah, so I think the coolest thing about this thus far has been me and Kyler had the idea years ago of doing, because we're big Ohio State Buckeye fans.
yeah, we were going to do a sports pod.
We wanted to do a sports podcast, and then me and Tyler, we wanted to do a music podcast. It's been 2 years ago
Yeah.
that we had these in-depth conversations about doing it, and we never started. We didn't take a leap forward. We never stuck our foot in the water to do it. And here we are 2 years later. And the coolest thing about this podcast was a message from Kyler in our group chat one day about, guys, I want to do a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyler said, I'm down. And obviously I agreed and would love to do a podcast. Well, that fucking night, they decided to jump and do a podcast. Unfortunately, I wasn't available. But that's exactly how this thing started.
It was two texts between 2 or 3 texts like, yo, let's do this shit.
So if I can give any advice to anybody out there that has any sort of aspirations in regards to their own dreams, their own things that they want to pursue. And I know it's ironic because me and Tyler had sat here and mentioned and gave bands advice to get prepped and get everything squared away, and don't worry about playing all these shows. The ironic side of it, the opposite I would give the advice is just start.
Yeah.
Just start.
You're never gonna know.
We're 6 episodes deep.
I mean, we are in, I don't know, I've lost count of how many states, 3 or 4 different countries. You don't know until you try.
You have no
And
clue.
I would have never dreamed that we would be sitting here on episode 6 getting ready to start season 2 with a fucking bang, and doing a website, doing merch, doing, I don't want to give away too much of season 2, but we got some big shit coming. And I would have, if you'd have asked me this 6 weeks ago, I'd have been like, man, we're just doing this because we want to talk about music. We just want to talk music on a mic. That's all.
Yeah.
That's it. No, we have been able to, because of you guys, the listener, we have been able to share our love and passion for music with you, and you guys have resonated with that and have helped us propel this to not just a podcast, but a full-blown brand and platform where people can come and express their love for music. And I'm so thankful for that, because this started off as literally just let's do a podcast, and now it's becoming what it's becoming.
It's going to be it's a brand.
It's because of you guys. So I'm so fucking thankful for that. So Tyler.
Yeah, so Preston and I, when Preston first joined the band, Screaming Evidence hadn't been doing a whole lot for about a year or two. We'd play a few shows. We were writing some new music, kind of in that stage of transitioning styles a little bit. We started writing some heavier stuff, and so we really weren't doing much on the business side. And when Preston joined, for me, it was really cool to have someone else in the band that was interested in learning about the business side of things. Because Preston and I had worked together for a while, and we talked a lot about business and mindset and stuff like that based around the industry that we were in. And so we started translating those conversations into band stuff, because he got to the point where he had learned the songs. We started playing some shows, and now he was wanting to learn more about this business side and how to do something, with this band, because he fell in love with playing music out live as soon as we started doing it. And it was really cool to see him glow up with how, joining the band and this new thing for him. And it gave me a lot of motivation to start working for the band again. And at that point, Preston and I really spearheaded getting into doing better, getting better graphic designers to work on the branding, work on our messaging, got a new website. We started,
There's
really
more of an identity to the operation.
right. And then what we decided we were going to do was record a podcast following our journey through that process, because we knew that there are so many bands out there that don't have a resource they can go to that can guide them through what they're supposed to be doing to be able to get out there to play more shows, get out there to more fans, really build a fan base. And I say a fan base as in not just some people that come to your shows once in a while, people that come to every show, they buy any merch that you have available, they're buying your CDs, and it's not just because we're friends, it's because they enjoyed the music and they really wanted to support what we were doing. And so we wanted to have a podcast where we can talk about this, and it was going to be kind of a way for me also to kind of discuss what I'd learned in school with music business. But we never did it, and the reason being is we got the interface, we got the microphones, and the interface was also going to be used for band stuff, which we ended up not really doing much of. And the idea was really killed by COVID, because COVID really killed the momentum that we had started to build with the band. And COVID hit right when we released Inhibitions Part 1. And so we really weren't able to set up a solid show to release it as a release party. We'd done a couple oddball shows and just said, hey, we're going to use this as our opportunity to promote the release. And after those few shows, shows just dried up. No one was putting on shows. If they were putting on shows, they were kind of illegal as fuck. And, that killed our momentum on the band. And so it killed the momentum we had in our discussions around the business and our desire to do that podcast. And then when Kyler sent a message in the chat, he simply
Random
said...
as shit.
Random as shit. He simply said, I'm going to buy some gear to record a podcast, and I want to do a podcast about music. First topic, Avenged Sevenfold sucks. And I was like, so why are you going to buy stuff? I have everything that we need to get started. And he was like, no shit. I was like, yeah, I'm down to do the podcast. Let's do it. And so then he was like, yeah, so when are you available? I was like, well,
now.
Tonight.
What about now?
I was like, I'm pretty free tonight. And then he just came over and we let it rip. And then we got Preston involved with episode 2. We had a little better planning around that. And ever since, it's just been nonstop conversations about
what's next.
What are we going to
The
talk
ideas
about on
that
the
have
next
popped up,
episode?
it is so crazy. Just because we started, we actually did it.
Now
and
we
the
think
ideas
about
that
it.
have popped up, whew.
And we
It's so
we
fun, man.
include people in those conversations, and having having guests on, and having Derek on episode 4, having Ryan on episode 5. It's been so intriguing to get those folks on, and the guests that we have lined up. It's fucking incredible, and to hear their stories and to hear their their opinions. That's what it's all about, man. It's crazy to think that a simple text message is the start of all that, and I'm
This
just
is
I'm
awesome.
And you deleted that text message.
I did actually. Yeah, I was trying to delete one of those automated text threads that I get from the sheriff's department that's
Yeah.
weather warnings and shit.
Yeah.
I was trying to delete that and wasn't paying attention, and I deleted our group chat. So like 6 years of fucking rock and metal music and conversations being sent back and forth is gone. I'm a little upset about it. It is what it is. I'm not going to get in my fucking feels again. But I'm so thankful that we're doing what we're doing. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm thankful for all the support we've received because I never dreamed we would get as much as we've gotten. I mean, I've talked to people in New Jersey, Canada, Texas, Michigan, all over the country about what we're doing, and it's just so fucking cool. New York, that's another. I've talked to a guy in New York. It's just so fucking cool that people enjoy what we're doing and feel a part of the family that is the Screaming Idiot Show, because that's what this
They
is.
are
It's
a part of it.
It's a family. You guys are
Yep.
a part of the family with us, and we're very thankful for that. So, with that being said, I think we're going to call that a wrap on episode 6, a wrap on season 1. And just a reminder, after this episode, we're going to take a short break of releasing stuff for a couple weeks, and we'll keep you guys updated on social media, exact dates of when season 2 is going to drop. And reminder of the Patreon piece for anyone that's interested. Go jump on that wait list. I've got a couple people on it already. I've got a couple people asking, why isn't it live already? I want to subscribe now, which is awesome. Thank you so much for that. But we want to make sure we have content that you're getting since you're paying for it. So, but go jump on that Patreon waiting list. You'll be notified when the page goes live, and you'll get full access to all of season 2 all at once, plus any bonus content. You'll be able to interact with us, send us requests, all of that. So if you're interested in that, please go do that. If not, we'll see you guys when we drop season 2, starting with episode quote 7, if you will. But we'll keep you guys updated on everything. Thank you so much for all the love. Thank you so much for all the support. And until next time, we are the Screaming Idiots.
Peace, love, dove.